Welcome to Airway Exchange, the podcast for empowering educators and inspiring future CRNAs, a new series of Beyond the Mask supported by AANA.
We're your host team. I'm Greg Collins.
I'm Nickie D'Amico.
I'm Erin Martin.
And I'm Louisa Martin. We're here to support the community of CRNA educators with conversations to explore, learn, and grow.
To pursue excellence in the evolving field of nurse anesthesia education.
And to champion our students and enrich the future of the profession.
This is Airway Exchange.
Welcome back to Airway Exchange. I'm Louisa Martin, and I'm joined in this episode by one of my co-hosts, Nickie D'Amico. How are you doing, Nickie?
Great. Hey, everyone.
Excited to be here on this episode where we're going to be talking about the mini faculty track for students at the Minneapolis School of Anesthesia. And we're really excited to welcome two of our guests, Dr. Travis Laffoon. Dr. Laffoon has been program director at the Minneapolis School of Anesthesia since October of 2023, after previously serving as the associate director since 2020. Dr. Laffoon graduated from the Baptist Health Murray State University Program of Anesthesia with his Master's of Science in Nursing in 2015 and completed his Doctorate of Nursing Practice from Murray State University in 2018. He previously worked as a CRNA in Madisonville, Kentucky, where he also served as clinical instructor and also served as the Associate Director of Baptist Health Murray State University Program of Anesthesia for 3 years prior to relocating to MSA, the Minneapolis School of Anesthesia. In addition to his current role, he also works as community faculty at their education partner, Metro State University, and maintains clinical practice at several facilities in Minnesota. So we're also very excited to welcome Dr. Megan Kakela, who joined the MSA faculty in December of 2024. She obtained her Bachelor of Arts in Nursing degree from the College of St. Scholastica in 2007 and her DNP degree in nursing anesthesia from the University of Iowa in 2013. She previously served as adjunct faculty at the University of Minnesota in the nursing anesthesia program and maintains current clinical practice at mHealth Fairview University campus and Lakeview Hospital in Stillwater. So the school has implemented a mentorship program for student-registered nurse anesthesiologists who are interested in teaching, and that is the primary reason that you guys have joined us today. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We're very excited to have you. We've heard great things about your program. Greg told us we had to have you guys on. So tell us a little bit about the program and how it got started, and a little bit about the why behind the program. I think many educators know the why, but we want to hear it from you guys.
Yeah, so I think that we recognize, obviously, that it's hard to recruit faculty into these positions, especially individuals that have any type of prior knowledge or education around teaching. So we figured, how can we correct this problem early on? How can we identify those individuals that are interested in education and get them on the right track so that we have a pool of people that we can draw from in the future? With this idea, came up with the Faculty Student Mentorship Program at Minneapolis School of Anesthesia. And I worked with Dr. Kakela as well as other faculty at the school, Dr. Popp and Dr. Beth Quass, who's no longer with us at Minneapolis School of Anesthesia, but she was when we implemented the program initially, to kind of develop the framework for this project. And we have since enrolled 2 students into this student faculty mentorship program. One is Grace Bedu, who's actually here with us today, and then another one in our second year of the program.
Yeah, we noticed a theme when we would interview students. Often people come to nurse anesthesia school interviews and they'll vocalize enthusiasm about being future educators. And somewhere over the course of their training and then entering into clinical practice, we didn't foster that development in any way. After a round of interviews, we started having conversations as a faculty of what can we do to foster these students that come in excited about being educators, to set them up for success when they graduate, and then ultimately fix one of the primary issues we've had, which is recruiting faculty. So it was something that our students were telling us they were excited about, so why aren't we as faculty stepping in and providing them the opportunity?
Wonderful. So how long has the program been going on, did you say?
It's been going on for about a year now.
Okay.
So when we first implemented it, we sent the applications out to the second and third year students with the idea that in the future we would send it out to only second year students and try to get them on this path for 2 years so we could kind of give them multiple opportunities to learn from us.
Dr. Laffoon has been instrumental in putting together the progression for it. And so sort of when they step into the role in year 2, every semester has goals so that things that they will tangibly come forward with that involves doing AANA educator portal things that are brought forward for educators. So they do that while they're in the program. And we also send our students through the CRNA item writers course so that they start to have an understanding of how do you write an exam? How do you test students? And another component is we have our students come to EDGE as well, sort of entrench them in the AANA educator role while they're in school so that they understand what they need to garner while in school to set them up for success.
And so how do you visualize in the future? I know you talked a little bit about how many will you offer seats to matriculate through the process in your cohorts? Will it be just one or?
Well, we have cohorts of 33 students, and we were thinking to offer this to 2 students at a time, like a max of 2 students in each second year cohort. And that way that we could limit it to a small number of individuals. We'd send out the application to everybody, and whoever was interested could then, of course, apply for the role. Right now, we've only had one person really from each of the cohorts that have applied for the position. So I think since it's so early on in its development that it hasn't garnered a whole lot of engagement yet. However, I do see that changing because since the process has started, I've had students that have reached out and said, oh, I wish I actually had applied for that. Now looking back and seeing what my classmates or peers are getting out of it.
I'm struck by something, which is that whenever we add anything to the degree program, I mean, they are so busy with all the clinical hours and the doctoral projects and so forth. So I see our SRNA nodding in the background like, oh, yes, it's very busy. What do you think is the primary motivator for them? Are there any other incentives, funding for meetings, those kind of things to try to help make this merge with their degree program a little bit better? Because it's a fabulous idea, but we add 1 minute of extra time to their workload, it's often that's enough of a barrier to put it to bed. So how did you incentivize that?
Absolutely. We identified that would be a challenge, so we had decided that we would allow the student a little bit of reprieve time from their clinical setting. We're still kind of working on what the appropriate amount of time to allow clinical release for this role. Right now we're doing about a clinical day per month, so about an 8-hour shift or so per month that we're taking that student out of the clinical setting and then bringing them on campus with their mentor. The student's not just paired with their one mentor, they have one primary mentor, but they do get to spend time with other faculty within the program as well. For example, Grace is paired with Dr. Popp, but she has also done some work with Dr. Kakela in the simulation lab. She went with Dr. Popp on a clinical site visit to kind of see sort of the backside of education too, not just the formal teaching role, but some of the administrative work as well that we put into the program.
It's not just about podium time. Lots of other behind-the-scenes stuff that faculty do.
And we do also fund the student to come to EDGE. And then in that final year of the program, our students graduate in May. We'll fund them to come to the EDGE conference. So that's another incentive for this role as well.
So what has gone well and what have been challenges that have come up?
I would say what's gone well is how engaged the students have been. I will often find I have it on my to-do list to get to, but I get the email from my mentee before I've even checked in with them. And so I think identifying the right students and sort of allowing them, anybody to apply and we're not selecting it. We're allowing the students to identify themselves as this is something they want to do. You noted that anytime you put an extra minute of work on an SRNA, it can be a lot. But if it's something they want to do, they show up. And so we allow them to sort of self-identify as I'm interested in this role and I have something to contribute in the education world. And we sort of take that by the horns and go forward with it. And then we're excited to work with them. entrenching students and getting them access to the online courses is a challenge, because one of the things we teach them is how to write exam questions. And so we're actually administering their exam questions to our students so that they can get an idea. They can look, once they administer a quiz or an exam, how do we look at how the students did on that question? Did that question perform well? Should we throw it out? Getting them access and some of the FERPA stuff, it just is can be clunky. And so we're still sort of working that out. We have some emails going right now with sort of, we need access to this course so that they can get these questions in, but also not compromising any FERPA guidelines. And so we're still sort of figuring out how to best do that.
How could other programs do this? What are the pieces and parts that they need? Can you talk a little bit about like the resources and the specific components? I hear you talking a lot about assigning them mentors, and really that could be the program, but it's probably about a lot more than that. Some of the logistic stuff is helpful, but if another program were to try to do this, what are the components, the major pieces of it, and what are the resources that they would have to devote to this to make it go?
I think one of the primary resources is going to be identifying faculty mentors in the program, because you want to have faculty that's going to be invested in actually taking on that student and mentoring them through the program. We didn't really have any resources when we started this program. We pretty much just came up with it and then developed it completely on our own. So what I did was I created a checklist. I thought, what are the most important things that I want the student to get out of this experience? And I think from having like lots of adjunct faculty, one of the issues that we've encountered is having people that come into this role that with no knowledge about like teaching pedagogy, or about how to administer an exam, or to look at those statistics, or how to deliver a quality lecture. So those are the main things I wanted to get out of this. I wanted the student to be able to figure out, how do I put together a lecture? How do I identify the most important information? How do I create a good quality test question? And then how can I look at the statistics of those questions and determine whether that was actually a good quality question or not? That's why we leaned on like those AANA educator modules and the CRNA's item writer course, and then how we wanted to actually entrench them in the process of doing the test writing and doing the education and doing the simulation pieces, and not just teach them how to do it, but let them actually do it, get that hands-on learning.
And we've elicited feedback along the way. Was that module worth it? I know your time is valuable. Did you find that you got what you needed out of that module? Because if the answer is no, we're not going to have next year's person do that module. So sort of eliciting real feedback and being open to the process changing. That is incredibly important as we've moved through this. There have been modules that my mentee has said, you didn't tell me to do this one. I saw it on the AANA educator portal. I think I'm going to do it. Great. That's great feedback, but I don't want to overburden you. So we've tried to be conscious about how much we're putting on the student, and that what they're doing is valuable.
Yeah, it really is, as I said, impressive, and seems like a very effective solution to a very real problem. So I imagine other programs are going to want to potentially implement something similar. And so how did you decide what order to introduce different, you spoke of the different pieces that you wanted included in the program. How did you decide, we're going to introduce this first?
I think I leaned on my faculty a lot for that, because I made the checklist and then I was like, what do you guys think? What is the most important piece for us to implement first? What should be their primary goal out of this whole process, and how do we get there? So Dr. Kakela also helped determine kind of the order of those steps.
Yeah, our curriculum drove some of it, sort of when certain simulations are. The other component I'll say, and Grace can speak to this, is we asked the mentees what they wanted to teach. We didn't tell them what they needed to come forward with. We had 5 needs. Do any of these topics interest you? Which one do you want to put something together on? And then they were able to self-identify. This is something I've done my DNP project on. This is something that I've done background research on. So we didn't tell them necessarily what they were going to teach. We said, these are the simulation opportunities that you can step forward and assist in. Which one do you want to do? And so we've allowed their interest to guide the process. So again, hopefully it isn't something that feels painful for them. It feels like something that they're gaining insight on how to implement.
Are they teaching the underclass SRNAs? So have you gotten feedback from them? Have they been receptive?
incredibly
skeptical.
receptive. We've not formally have we as part of this mentorship program, but we've had a role in this in some of our D&P projects. A lot of our scholarly projects have centered around peers teaching peers topics, and they really like it without faculty being a part of it, where they can unfettered ask questions and not be embarrassed about not knowing something. So we knew from those scholarly projects that students liked learning from their peers. And this was an opportunity to build on that.
One of the things we talked about yesterday in the early faculty workshop was about how intimidating it is to get up in front of, SRNAs. They're, just so accomplished these days. We get up there, and of course, those who are new to teaching, the first time they step up at that podium, they're like, oh, it's going to be horrible. But I think that's not really the way it plays out. They're far more receptive, and probably even more so. I think we heard from some of the folks who were newer to the podium that they were even more worried, like, I don't have this breadth of experience. It's like, no. Actually, that's great. It's really good to have that very near peer interaction because they have this level of comfort. So that's probably one of the elements that your program captures is that receptivity. It's really
absolutely
an ideal time for them to jump to the podium and start to take on that different role.
And they can remember what they didn't know around those concepts. Last year when I was going through this content, I didn't know, fill in the blank. Let me answer that question for you right away. So they have insight that sometimes experienced faculty don't have. And so we can learn from them as well.
For sure. Yeah, my recollection of my first intubation is not going to be as crisp, perhaps, as Grace's.
Exactly.
Are there other program, do they get any credit within the program for that? Is this something that is in any way counted to our course requirements, or can they fulfill any of their course requirements by way of participating in this, or is it all extracurricular?
At this point, it's extracurricular, but I like that idea.
Yeah, I think your point about the beauty of peers teaching peers, I think another benefit of having someone who has, one of the pros of having someone who has just completed a program start teaching in it is the fresh, talk about real-time evaluation and implementation, what can be improved. And then also there are pros and cons to having a diverse faculty as far as experience level and age, But I think that sometimes the students can relate to someone who has just been in the shoes that they are currently walking in. Yeah, I think that they can hear from and learn from someone generationally, sometimes, not that everybody is the same age, but I feel like there is something to be said about being able to learn from somebody you can relate to better. Because, again, I've just been in your shoes. I know what you're going through. And that can, not just in the classroom, but in times of struggle for our students when they need to vent, when they need a shoulder to cry on. So I think you really have a great thing going here that I'm sure many programs are going to want to, we have a faculty position open. I think everybody has a faculty, I don't know, but many programs have faculty positions open. We need faculty, and the faculty turnover rate and this seems like a great solution to not only filling a faculty position, but filling it in a very effective and meaningful way.
Is that the vision, that this will be one of the solutions to your faculty shortage?
Yeah, it's absolutely one of the visions, and was kind of one of the reasons we started the program in the first place. We have had a difficult time recruiting and retaining faculty, as pretty much all programs have. You look at the clinical sites, and they start reaching out to students while they're still in school. They start offering them sign-on bonuses. They start approaching people and trying to get them to sign on early. So we kind of thought, why can't we do the same thing? Even if they're not interested in taking a role as faculty initially, like on day one, because that was never really our goal, but at least we would have a pool of people that we could draw from later on, that in a year or so we could reach out to and say, hey, we have this position open, are you interested? Or we have this hole in our content and the curriculum needs to be filled. Would you be interested in coming back as an adjunct faculty and teaching that content? And the benefit of that, them being to the program, is that they would be set up better, I think, on day one as adjunct faculty than just somebody you would pull in from the clinical facility that has not had any exposure to the education side of things yet.
That's so true, because I know from some of our recent graduates who they are practicing clinically full-time where I practice, as part of my faculty practice. And I'll say, would you please come give a guest lecture, because I think they'd be great. But it's hard to find time to appropriately mentor them. And they want to do a good job. And then our schedules don't always match up because of their full-time clinical schedule. And so sometimes again, it's hard to find time to appropriately and adequately, sufficiently mentor them in a way that you want to. So I think even if they're not going to come teach full-time, right upon graduation, I think that's really wise to have a pool to pull from. I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes not only do you not have the time on your side to meet with that individual and try to mentor them, but sometimes you need somebody so quickly that there's not even time to devote to that.
Right.
Sometimes you ask a adjunct faculty member to step in a week or two and start and present a lecture for you. You really had no time to meet with that individual and properly prepare them or get them on track and set them up for success. So we're trying to avoid that also.
Yeah, and it makes the students know, too, sort of the faculty that are in front of me have had some mentorship, right? In the same way, often we all feel competent and confident when we graduate clinically, but every graduate doesn't feel confident and competent stepping in front of a podium and delivering a lecture. They're used to being mentored clinically, and so I really think it's taking what we're good at in the operating room and then transferring it to the classroom.
In the mentorship, do you guys talk with your mentee about the reality of the stresses of being a full-time educator?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it too, sort of that transparency and honesty, but that recruiting them and having them, they're part of the solution, right? If we can sort of have a community of educators to step in, part of the stress is the not enough faculty. And so if we can start to find creative solutions, that this is part of that.
So conceivably, some of the folks that complete your program may need to inquire about positions at other institutions. They certainly have the credentials that are offered by the ANA, the modules they complete, they'll have that. Have you thought about, or are you already formalizing this into sort of its own credential so that they would have something that's transferable? They certainly would be able to add these individual components to their CV, and if they articulate those well, I would love to see that for a new faculty hire, but I'm just curious if you've thought about really bundling this into a specific credential or fellowship.
We have not, but that sounds like something that we should look into. Yeah.
I would agree, yes. Currently, it's just something that every person that participates gets to decide how they put it on their CV. But I love the idea of formalizing it, and maybe as we move forward as a profession, it's something we can look for.
Because those are incredibly valuable skills. I mean, they've gained so much if they've completed this. And again, individually, they look great, but collectively, that might make a really nice standalone credential.
All right, so thank you so much to Dr. Kakela and Dr. Laffoon for taking the time to talk about their mini faculty track for students that they've developed at the Minneapolis School of Anesthesia. And so now we're going to talk to Grace Bedu and Dr. Jordan Popp. Dr. Jordan Popp joined the Minneapolis School of Anesthesia as faculty in May of 2023 and became Associate Clinical Director in 2024. Dr. Popp graduated from MSA in 2020 with his Master's of Science in Nursing and completed his doctorate in nursing practice from Kakela University in 2024. Works as community faculty at Metro State University while also maintaining current clinical practice at the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital. So a peds anesthetist. Yes, thank you for your service in that arena. And then Grace, will you tell us about yourself? We're so excited to have our first student nurse anesthesiologist on the podcast.
Yes, my name is Grace Bedu. I started MSA 2023 and graduating this March 2026. I went to National American University, did my bachelor's there, and then worked at United Hospital for about 5 years as an ICU-RN, and at North Memorial Hospital, also in Minneapolis, for about a year before getting into the program.
So tell us a little bit about your interest in education.
So I have always been interested in teaching. I doing my bachelor's, I was a tutor. I did a lot of preceptorship and mentoring people to get into school, anesthesia school. I remember people I was like talking to, sharing all the information with, got into school way before me because I'm like, what is happening? I'm not getting in, and everyone else I'm talking to is getting in.
Really good mentor. Really good mentor. Effective mentor.
But I finally got in. So I came in and immediately told everyone, like all of them, I really want to teach. At that point, we didn't have the program, so I was like, I still want to teach, so I'll teach after school. And I told them, leave me as part because I'll become a faculty when I'm done. So second year, that's when we started the program, and so far it's been great. I thought it was really, really good because I had no idea. Even though I wanted to teach, I had no idea what it like entails. Like I didn't have any idea about all the things that you needed to know, all the item writing. I had no idea. I was just gonna jump into it without any kind of like education on it. So I was glad they started this because it's been very helpful.
Wonderful. So what's been your favorite part? What's your favorite part? Some people love the classroom, some people love clinical, some people enjoy item writing. What's been your favorite part?
I think I enjoy the classroom more. I find understanding material has been challenging for me in school. So it's like when something clicks, you're like, yes, it clicked. And I feel like doing that for other people, like the time I have put into understanding content, understanding concepts, I feel like I can make that easier for someone else, not to spend as much time as I spent doing all those things. Like I've done the work and here you go. This is how it's easier for you to understand this way. So it's been great doing that.
And is the plan for you to join the faculty?
Yes.
So upon graduation?
Is it in May? In May, yes.
That's wonderful. So tell us a little bit, Dr. Popp, about the mentorship process, how often you all meet, what that's looked like.
Yeah, so we check in about once a month. Grace and I communicate either in person or via email. And I think one other aspect that I really hope that we can kind of address and change is the stigma around students that graduate and enter into clinical practice, them turning around right away and coming back and teaching. I think sometimes the community views it as negatively, that they need to get out there and get the experience, where really they're going through it. They understand it. Dr. Laffoon and also myself, you can see, jumped back into academia pretty early on in our careers. And probably because we saw a lot of things we wanted to change. Obviously, I'm back at the program I went to, so I had some business I had to take care of. But I think that's one thing where hopefully with this program we can encourage people to come back quicker and to not stay away for so long, because as you know, the further you get away, the harder it is to come back and crack open those textbooks again. This way, if you kind of stay enveloped in the world, hopefully we can kind of, again, recruit for these positions and make it seem less intimidating.
It's sort of an antiquated way of thinking about it. I mean, I think historically we all learn, you go to med-surg and then you go to the ICU, you do this and you do this, and that's what the path is. And I think it's wonderful that we're now saying, well, that doesn't have to be the path for everybody. And with the faculty shortage, we can't wait for that. There is not a way for us to continue to stick with one model and say, all right, this is the only path there's going to be. We're only going to clear the way for those people, not for the others. And just thinking about the diversity of a faculty team, having a beautiful mix of different backgrounds and different trajectories seems like a fantastic, portfolio to have. So, and I love that. I think that it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have 15 years of experience before you can do this. In fact, that may not be something that is as palatable to our modern learners.
Right, I agree. I think maybe sometimes we get a little stuck in our way, a little dated. So I think having a fresh voice to shake things up and see how it could be differently and how we can reach the students more, why not?
And when we're open to each other on a faculty team to say, okay, what's your perspective on this? And, I can teach them things that I've learned kind of a little bit like you described, Grace, like, okay, this was a really rough transition from clinical to teaching. let me help you make that a little bit faster. Don't make those mistakes. So that's a perspective to put in the pile, but then also the idea that the learners are different. They need a different model of teaching, and we got to move with them and go where they need us to be. That's fantastic. It sounds to me like, Grace, you're going to be a fantastic ambassador for this program going forward, which will certainly be huge. What are the things that have been the most meaningful to you? Like, it sounds like you're thrilled you did it and are even more energized about teaching.
I think is the community. Like, everyone is very supportive, very helpful, welcome ideas from students, allow us to tell them what we need and what we want as students, and kind of incorporate that into the learning and decision making and things to support the program as a whole. So
has that helped you? Like, have you had conversations with your classmates about the other side of the fence and the perspective of being on the back side of things? Like, has that helped you maybe frame things for them or explain things to them?
Some, yeah. Actually, some of them are like, I should have done this. Some of them, like, some people have like a little bit of interest, and I feel like you don't know what you can do until someone actually shows you. So some people have the interest, but they're like, I don't think I can teach. But then if they had this experience, they would have been like, I think I can really do this. So I've had some people be like, I wish I did this. I have a couple friends who are like, I totally missed out on this one. So I feel like it's a good program to, even if you are not 100% sure of teaching, if you have like a slightest interest, I think it would be good to do it just to see, oh, I can actually do this, and it's not as scary as I thought it would be.
I think another part that we can selfishly be really happy about too is having Grace's voice out there to her peers. I know when we went on a site visit, she was able to see firsthand the comments that I received from a clinical site then, and how we really kind of get stuck as, the middleman a lot of the time with the students' complaints, the clinical site complaints, and how we have to find a pathway for both to be happy. So that's one thing that really helped. And then also seeing how much work goes into the exams and maybe why we're so protective of them, and how when a student then comes up and argues right away about a question, how it's written this way, having her voice to be like, relax, guys. You don't quite understand how much work goes into doing this, creating a lecture. These are humans too. It's been helpful having her voice.
And I think I told him too, I was like, after doing the item writing and writing a few questions, I'm like, I understand why you don't want the questions out there.
Yes.
Because they are so hard to like create. So I totally get it now.
Can you say that again so that all of the residents listening to this podcast will hear that a little bit louder? Yeah, I think it is so different on the other side. It is so much harder than it looks. I mean, folks make it look easy, or we just assume that it's easy to, just write better questions or write new ones every year. It's not so easy. No. Any other surprises, things you figured out once you sort of got to look under the hood? What was different than you expected?
I feel like clinical, like finding clinical sites. I thought like every hospital was like welcoming and like you can come here, no problem. But I realized it takes a lot, and it takes a lot of like paperwork and effort and everything to like find good clinical sites for students. That's another thing I found. I'm like, because we go to some place and we're like, I don't like it here, and you're like, but it takes a lot of work to even get here. So it gave me a new perspective on clinical site and finding good ones for students.
Some of the real challenges that we face. I think that's great. Did you ever feel stuck in the middle between the students and the faculty? Did you ever feel conflict?
I don't think so. I feel like I explain as best as I can to them, and it makes sense for the most part when they understand what it takes to do some of these things, like the item writing, because I think one of the things were like, oh, I want to see the questions I got wrong. It's like you can't see them because it's hard to set those questions. And I had a difficult time too. In my second year, I'm like, why can't we see them? Like, I want to see them until I took that item writing class and I'm like, oh, now I get it. So now I explain it to them like, yeah, this is the reason, because it's not easy to set a question. And I feel like they get it. They're like, yeah. But everyone in their own selfish way, I still want to see them.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So
We're probably not going to solve that problem
No.
today, but it's at least helpful to share perspectives, make sure that everybody sees that, the other side there's a valid perspective on the other side. At what point in your trajectory, I assume your program is 3 years, at what point in the trajectory of that program, the degree program, did you begin the work and the mentorship that's part of this initiative?
about second year. Yeah. And then I guess it just kind of like builds up. You do a class, you write the test, and clinical simulations, which was really nice because like they were talking about, they feel more comfortable with another student kind of walking them through stuff. And I found that you are not only teaching or explaining things to them, you end up talking about real life stuff like, oh, when you go to clinical, when you go to this site, make sure you do this and that and that. And they're like, oh my God, thank you for telling me I'm going there next semester. So that's really helpful. And those are conversations that we wouldn't have had if I wasn't at simulations. And they wouldn't have known all these things that they should or should not do. So it went beyond just like teaching them and more like giving them also advice on what to do, what not to do in clinical and stuff like that. So they found it really helpful.
So will this relationship, the mentor-mentee, continue in your first, years as a new faculty?
Definitely. I think that's something that, since she is signing on, we're kind of paired together. It's definitely brought us a lot closer together. So I think it's going to be really helpful, especially that first year, just bouncing different test questions off someone who's been there, gone through it before. You have those days in the classroom where you finish your lecture and you feel like everything went horrible, that you didn't get your message across, you didn't explain something clearly. Just being able to go talk to someone who's been there before and can kind of be like, it's fine. We've all been there. We've all had those moments where a student asks a question, you're like, I have no idea. Like, that's a great question. I'm going to have to look it up. And that's fine to say that. So that's my goal with it, that yes, Grace did sign on with us. So the next year, that's my hope too. Of course, monthly meetings, we're going to continue. We're always texting each other already anyways at this point, and just continue to foster that and not let her even think that she can fail at this, that she can do it, even if you're going to have those struggles.
Is there anything that you would like to say that we didn't ask?
I would say it would be nice for other schools to do same, and I feel like we teach SRNAs to become CRNAs in the clinical field, but we don't really focus on teaching them to be teachers. So I feel like it would be great if other schools can do same for us who are interested in teaching and give us a little bit of support to be able to do it when we are done with school. That would be nice.
I feel like I shouldn't call out the COA, so maybe don't include this, but I'm like, I wish there was, maybe some element within graduate requirements that there is a teaching aspect like this, more than just saying students perform teach back, that there is some kind of mentorship program or something along these lines in the future, because as we talked about earlier, this is a problem every program faces. We don't have program faculty, so maybe this is an opportunity for a larger organization to step up and say like, oh, this is something that we can even offer schools to support the development of this program.
Yes, I agree. I know that there is a lot of discussion about the importance of mentorship in education, because I know for me, I wanted to teach. I really wanted to teach, but I had never had any exposure to the science of education, right? To how to be a good teacher. I knew how to be a great nurse, and then I knew how to be a great nurse anesthetist, but I had not had any exposure to formal education about how to be a good educator, which is why initially, before going to a PhD program, I completed a semester in an EDD program, because I wanted to learn more about education. But then I started getting concerned about getting employment with an EDD because they preferred a DNP or a PhD. So, I think that is a real problem in our profession, is adequate mentorship and adequate instruction for educators on how to be instructors and effective educators. I think one thing that we are fortunate in our profession is that most nurse anesthetists I know are very driven and want to do whatever it is they're doing to the best of their ability. So most nurse anesthesia educators come to conferences like EDGE and read up on how to become better educators. We do it, but I feel like we could do it formally in a better way. What do you think, Nickie?
Well, I see some efforts in that regard. I mean, some of the programs that the ANA has offered, EDGE itself has been redesigned sort of around that theme. Teaching others how to teach. I think that's a concept that's really catching on, and I think it's logical for us to look to the COA, but I think also the ANA has been a major player in that. Sounds like the modules from the ANA have been a good chunk of, some of the formal structure that you've had, because our institutions offer these things, but they're not specific to nurse anesthesia or nurse anesthesiology. So, having those, and I think, we just have to continue to advocate for more and more of that. I think, having this meeting and being here is a great way to make those networks and start to keep the momentum on that going. So I applaud you guys. This sounds like a fantastic program. It's, again, something I think other programs are doing, but not as formal. And I'm very excited to see, the next couple of years, the outcomes that you guys are able to demonstrate, the return rate, how many folks do come back, how many stay in it. And again, I can only imagine, Grace, you're going to be an amazing advocate for this program at your institution and potentially others.
You might get some job offers from other institutions after this airs. Thank you all so much for coming, for your time, for what you're doing to grow, the future of nursing anesthesiology education. So thank you, and congrats again on graduating soon, Grace.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Airway Exchange, and we look forward to you guys tuning in to our next episode.